1.21 gigawatts. Great Scott!
Shall we play a game?
Would you like a jelly baby?
Engage auto systems.
Aye. Engaged.
Clear all moorings.
Cleared, sir.
1/4 impulse power.
You know how to fly, don't you?
No. Do you?
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
The Force will be with you, always.
Hi, and welcome to the Geek Hangout podcast. My name is Mark, and I am joined tonight, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Grant. How you doing tonight, Grant?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing great. Hey, everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Geek Hangout podcast. This is episode 78. Took a brief minute since we recorded last time.
Been a busy June.
Yeah. So we had all these grand plans. The last episode, we were like all excited. We're like, oh, Spider-Verse and the Flash and maybe the Transformers and Indiana Jones. Oh, yeah, all excited. And, June was just busy. So, yeah, we're going to talk about Indiana Jones tonight. We managed to see that in the theater. but that's
you
about
got it. That. Yes. I still haven't seen Spider-Verse, and I'm guessing it's probably going to have to wait until it comes to streaming, probably.
I was looking today. I think Spider-Verse, it may still be in theaters, but I'm not sure. But out of everything, like what I just mentioned, that will take the longest because it's actually making money and doing well. That'll take the longest to show up on demand and all that stuff. But yeah, we were talking about just briefly before the show, the Transformers. I think literally comes on video, on pay-per-view or whatever. Comes out tomorrow, and the Flash is the 18th. You know what I mean, of July. So it's like all the stuff that we missed. It's like a month later, and here you just watch it from the TV. So and then what's the window then? Probably another month it'll be on some streaming service. So it's
right.
It just goes so fast anymore. But So anyway, so we got a good show for you tonight. So we're gonna do a nice review of Indiana Jones. We did see it. We saw it. We had to go separate because our schedules were so busy. So we haven't talked about anything about the movie. So we're looking forward to that. And then we're gonna catch up on with Marvel. We have a Secret Invasion. There's 3 episodes of that we're up to date on, and we got Strange New Worlds season 2 is out, and there's 4 episodes, but I think we're just gonna talk about the first 2 because that's where you're up to. You said, right?
Yeah, that's all I've been able to see so far.
So, and at the end, we're just going to touch on Star Wars with Ahsoka's coming up at the end of the month. I'm sorry, at the end of August. So just to touch on that really quick. But as always, we like to start out, catch up with each other, and say what's been going on, what have you been up to.
Well, the big excuse me. We went to Disney World during the little hiatus there. We were in Disney. We had a short trip to Disney. So that was really cool because we didn't go last summer.
Okay.
Because we did a cruise instead.
Oh, that's right.
So we haven't been in the parks for almost 2.5 years, I'm going to guess.
Oh, it's been okay. All right.
Yeah, it's been a while. So we hadn't done any of the new stuff.
Yeah.
The Ratatouille ride was new. Guardians of the Galaxy was new, and Tron Light Cycle opened this year.
Okay, right.
And so we got to do all 3, which was
cool.
Which was really cool. Ratatouille is a cute ride. It's certainly not it's not worth wait. Like if you see like a 2-hour line, just go do something else. It's not worth that.
Is that right?
But it's a cute little fun ride. Yeah.
Is it a track ride or is it like a trackless? Is it
kind of one of those? Yeah, it's one of those trackless ones.
Like the Minnie and Mickey Runaway Train one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And it's fun. I mean, it's a fun ride. I just wouldn't wait a long time for it because it's not. It's cute, but it's not worth spending a lot of your time doing.
Right. Right.
That was cool. And then we did Tron and Guardians. And I was a little. I wasn't. I actually went down with low expectations. I was sort of expecting that we weren't going to get on. I thought we could get on one, but not the other.
Right.
But we sort of lucked out because I think the attendance this year is sort of low.
Oh, is that okay?
In the parks, but and we went at a good time. So we got on both. And I will tell you, of the 2,
right?
I really think Guardians is the better ride. That's my opinion. Guardians is a lot of fun.
Right.
and it's a and it's a much longer ride. Like I don't remember how long
Oh,
it is.
okay.
It's maybe I think maybe 3 minutes or something
Oh,
like
so that
that,
okay, all right.
or maybe two and a half or something like that.
Yeah.
But like
So
man, that
I keep thinking of the reskinned Tower of Terror out in California, but
yeah
it's not that. This is a whole different ride in Epcot,
yeah,
right?
this is like a full on roller coaster, and
Oh, it's a true roller
yeah
coaster. Okay, all right.
yeah, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
And I it like I there were some complaints when it first opened that people were getting like motion sickness on it,
Okay.
and because the cars like they sort of swivel,
Oh, so
right?
it's
Like
like
it's not like you're just
you're going
going
forward, but
straight,
your cart's moving like that.
right?
Okay.
And when you
Oh,
go around corners and stuff, you're like
oh, that's fun.
like
Yeah.
the car will move. And I guess it was making some people say I was fine. Like I
Yeah,
didn't have
right.
any problem, and I will get motion sickness like playing a 3D game if I'm sitting too close to the screen, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not immune to motion sickness, but that for me that ride was fine, and my son was on it, and
Oh
he
no.
doesn't really like roller coasters, but he was determined to go on that one.
Yeah.
He didn't have a problem.
Okay. Did he like it?
None of us. Yeah, he really liked it.
Did he?
I
Oh,
mean,
good. Okay.
that ride is so much fun. It
Good.
really is.
Good. Good.
It's a great
Well,
great ride. So
I
if
know
you
he's not a big ride guy. You know what I mean? Like in terms of
yeah
that stuff. So I was just curious if he powered through and did it. I was curious if he
yeah
liked it. So that's
he
good.
did all of them this year except he didn't do Tron.
Oh, okay. All
That
right.
was the only one he didn't do. And but like yeah, he did all of them this year, and he
Good.
did really well on all of them.
Oh, good. That's
So
great. Yeah.
yeah, we really had a good time. So but yeah, absolutely, Guardians is so much fun, and the music is playing, and I guess you get depending on they have like like a half dozen different tracks that they play,
Oh.
and it's all
Okay.
that
Oh,
kind of
yes.
Guardians inspired music,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's like a half dozen different tracks that you so it sort of gives you some replayability there. Like you get on the ride and you'll get a different song each time you go on there.
Okay. All right.
But it was great. It was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. And Tron is really fun too. I mean, it's a great ride,
Right.
but man, it's quick. It's like a minute long.
Oh. Now
It's just
that's like another roller coaster. I know
yeah,
you sit on the light cycle and
yeah,
all that, but that's like another roller coaster too, right?
yeah, and it's great. I mean, for the time you're on there, it's fantastic, but it's just a really short ride. Like if it
Yeah.
were a little longer, it'd be better.
Especially
And
if you're stressing out or waiting in line or whatever. I know they
right,
have the virtual queue, whatever it is. You're like, dude, I waited in one way or the other. I waited to get on this ride. I should be a little bit longer, right?
yeah, yeah, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, man, and it's like you're moving, and it's one of those rides that like launches you. Actually, both
Yeah.
of them launch you.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like Rock and Roller Coaster launches
Yes.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Um,
the magnets kicking and shove you
yeah.
forward. Yeah. Yeah.
So both of them do that.
If I'm prepared for that, I like it a lot. We
Yeah.
always tell a story years and years ago. My wife and I were just dating. We were over Great Adventure, Six Flags, and there's a Batman ride over there that we didn't realize the magnets were going to kick in, and we waited in line. We're in the sun, the heat, and all that stuff, and we're there. We're ready for the old fashioned, click, 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 click. Here we go up the roller coaster, and the magnets kick in, and just like it was the first ride of the day, and man, our stomachs just turned, and the rest of the day was just wrecked.
Yeah, it was.
We always talk about that.
Yeah, it was a good. It's. I mean, that's not that. I'm not to say it's a bad ride. It's
Oh
it's a
no,
great
right? Yeah,
ride too. It's just it's significantly shorter than Guardians, and I think
yeah.
Guardians is just a better experience because of it. But
That's
it's also a lot of fun.
yeah.
So
I'm
if you get a chance to go on any of those rides, do it. It's a lot. They're great.
I'm always surprised. Nothing against Tron, but I was really surprised to hear they're building a Tron ride, only because I'm like they like they had the one movie that was, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
The computer graphics at the time were really unique and good, but the movie itself, I was just even as a kid, I remember being like, whatever. And then they did that Tron Legacy, which again, I was like, okay, whatever. And then so I feel like they keep trying to make Tron happen, and
yeah.
I'm like, well,
Like
just make it a Star Wars ride, or make it,
yeah.
make it another a Marvel ride if you can. I mean, I know they can in Florida, but
Yeah, I think there's another Tron movie coming out.
I did read something that they're starting.
Yeah,
To,
I think
yeah,
I think
third time.
they're really trying to make this Tron thing work.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah. But they brought it here because like they built this. I guess Tron's a bigger deal over in Japan than it is here.
Yeah.
And they built.
I guess, I guess it is. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, and they built Tron over there, and it was a real big success. And then that's why they brought it here.
So
But,
I mean, other than duplicating it, they didn't have to really change anything, which is nice.
Right.
I guess. Okay.
Right. But it's great. It's also a lot of fun. But I just think if I have my choice for it,
for sure,
I'll probably go on Cosmic Rewind.
Okay.
All
right.
So that was really cool. We had a good time there. Got to experience Genie Plus for the first time, which is a whole other.
And now, in brief, was it a positive experience or was it? No. Okay. All right.
we actually, what we decided to do is there's this guy Len Testa who I'm a big fan of, and he's done Disney park stuff for years. I mean, he's written the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World for years and years, and he does all this like data analysis of the parks.
Right.
And so he was kind of doing a Genie Plus thing before Disney ever rolled that kind of thing out. Like he'd been doing it for a long time. And it was like you sign up for a membership on his website and you could go out there and like build customized plans and for yourself. And he using all this data analysis they've gathered, they'll tell you how you should structure your day, right? And it changes and it's dynamic, right? Like it changes as you go, right? So you come off a ride, you hit refresh on your little plan, and it'll be like, you should go to this ride next because this is the expected wait there, right? So you go. So we decided, because it was going to be, for the four of us, you're looking at it's like $100 a day just for Genie Plus.
Right.
And that's not including lightning lanes. Like that's not including any individual lightning lanes for like the big name attractions, right?
Right.
Like Rise of the Resistance and Tron and Guardians. So we kind of looked at it and we're like, you know what? Why don't we give this? We've never done the Len Testa thing. I was like, let's really try to make it work. The kids are old enough now that they're beyond the point where, no, I just want to go on this ride right now instead of
yeah. You can explain to them, no, we got to wait, or we're going to do this so we don't have to wait, or whatever. Right.
So we tried it, and I'll tell you what, like it really worked out well, except for instances where the rides, and their rides go down all the time now. Like it's a real they have serious maintenance issues. And they have it, particularly in Hollywood studios. So when a ride is having trouble, then that throws off the whole, estimation of what your wait time is actually going to be. And that's what we ran into. When we didn't have that problem, it really worked well. Like, we spent a lot of time waiting in line, but you could minimize it because you're like, okay, well, we're going to go to this ride next, and it's got a 20-minute wait, and
right.
So it really worked well, and and frankly, it saved us $500 for not doing it. So I think for what it was worth it, But they really like, we went to Animal Kingdom and on Flight of Passage. Now I should have bought an individual lightning lane for Flight of Passage, but I didn't that morning because I thought we could get there early enough and get in line that we didn't need to do it.
Right.
But then that morning we got up and it was raining, so we were behind, and it was like it was a whole thing. So we got in line, and it was like a 60-minute wait, and I was like, well, are we okay with that? Are we all okay with waiting 60 minutes? And everybody said yes. So we get in line, and that wait turned into, I'll bet, almost 2.5 hours. Right, like because they were having issues.
Because the ride kept going down.
You're right. And what they do then is, when the ride is having problems, they load all the people who paid, and the people who are in the standby line, they're like, well, you get what you get, right?
Right. That's why you're in standby, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So that's when so we had like 3 incidences of that occurred while we were there. where we waited almost double the time that they said we were going to have to. But other than that, it worked. That Len Testa thing worked really well.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's good to know then.
So
Yeah, I mean, especially like you said, if it saved $500, that's great. You
yeah,
know.
yeah, that was really good stuff. So
So what is it? I'm trying to remember now because when we went down, we went down last year, but we were at Disney for one day, and I remember trying to do the Genie Plus, and then we were trying to pay for a Lightning Lane because we were literally just there for Galaxy's Edge, you know,
right.
and it was just a nightmare. And here, the end result was because I had the Cantina scheduled, it wouldn't let me purchase any more reservations for like
Oh,
the
really?
Lightning Lane or something. And that, you know, so once we did that, I was able to get stuff, but then by that point it was, you know, I mean, we were at the cantina at 9 o'clock in the morning, but by the time we got out of the cantina and I was like, oh, now I can schedule stuff. It was scheduling me for stuff at like 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I'm like, well, we have dinner reservations and all that stuff. So we ended up, I think we were paying I think we paid for Genie Plus anyway. And then basically didn't use it. We went and stood in lines, you know.
Yeah.
So I was very frustrated with that. And I've heard both. I've heard nightmare stories about Genie Plus and all that. And then I've had another friend that was down there that he said his sister was doing it, but that he was down there and he was like doot doot doot, and he said it was great. So
Yeah, I think right. Like it all depends on, you know, it depends on the day you're there.
that's probably
You know,
right.
I think a
Yeah.
lot of the times, like sometimes you're there when it's on a light day and because I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't like it. I can say
Right.
that. I
I
don't
just,
love the
yeah.
idea of. I think I would. It would be an easier pill to swallow if they just let you buy it when you were planning your vacation. So that
Yeah.
it's not like you're on vacation and then you have to come up with another $500.
Right.
It's already
Right.
paid for. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be as upset about it if
Yeah,
I.
it's like, right. If you're sitting here on the computer planning your vacation, you're like
Right.
checkbox check. You know, yes, I want to ride this. I want to ride this, and I'll happily pay for it right now because I'm paying for everything else, so I won't
Right.
even notice it. Type of thing. Yeah, yeah.
But
Rather than
I
the day
resent.
of, you know.
Yeah. But I resent having to pay it the day of. Like that really
Yes.
makes me angry.
Yeah.
So
And there's that stress level too, where it's like, especially, I
right.
mean, you know, if you're there for like, in my case, I was there for the one day, and I'm like stressing out. I'm like, I'm here for one day. I'm not going to get on these rides. You know, like I was so,
Yeah, I know.
you know, yeah,
It's not right.
yeah, yeah. But
So
now I guess, yeah, I guess some of the rides. I remember I read somewhere like some of the rides they didn't even have a standby line. Is that right? And
yeah.
they finally
Well,
added that. Or is it?
well, so they do. So they do this virtual queue thing. So where it's
Yeah,
like when the ride is new in an effort to, and I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to do because I think what they're trying to do is when Hagrid's opened over at Universal a number of years ago, they
yeah.
had lines that were like 5 hours long.
Oh, okay, right,
Right? Like people would just get in line. Now, to me, that's insanity. I don't know why you would go to the park and get in a line for 5 hours. Like that's
right.
insanity. I think it's a lot of people that live there, you know, because they're like,
Maybe
if I don't do anything else today, it's no big deal, you know.
right. They're like,
But
you know,
I think the virtual queue is designed to avoid that because it's a bad look for the
yes,
for the park to have a
yeah,
line that's 5 hours long.
right,
So so then they institute this virtual queue thing, which and they only do it for when the rides are new. So Guardians had the Guardians have virtual queue? Yeah,
I think
Guardians still
right.
has a virtual queue.
Okay.
But it's easier to get now. Like like I
Oh,
didn't
I
really
see.
have any trouble getting, and we actually rode Guardians. Did we ride it twice or three times?
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think we were able to get on it pretty much anytime we tried to get, like the virtual queue opens in the morning and then it opens at 1 o'clock.
Okay. All
Have
right.
spots. And I
Yeah.
think every time we tried to get it, we got it. So I think we rode it 3 times while we were
Oh,
there.
okay. Oh, so then that's not bad at all then. So then,
Yeah.
so that's working as it should, basically. You know what I mean? Then
Yeah.
it's like, oh,
Right.
this is convenient, you know, but like you said, the minute there's a hiccup in the system, then there's a
Right.
problem. Yeah.
Then there's a problem. Because it's like all that all those people that should be on that ride then go elsewhere,
Right. And just
and they're
throws
all
everything.
right. And Hollywood Studios has a lot of problems. Like the day we were in Hollywood Studios, Slinky Dog Dash was down,
Okay.
Rock and Roller Coaster was down, Toy Story Midway Mania was down,
Oh, geez.
and only half of Tower Tower of Terror was running.
Oh,
So they have
okay.
two banks. They have two elevator banks, and
Yeah,
only
right.
one elevator bank was running. And
Man.
you know, and that's just, and like, how much you paying to get in that park
Right.
just for the day? And it's like half the rides aren't, you know, like,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
they're
crazy.
saying like Rise of the Resistance goes down like
That's
on
down all
average
the, yeah.
2 hours a day.
I know
You
when
know,
we were there the one day, because with all the mess with the Genie Plus, we kept checking the app. We're like, what's going on?
right,
And the whole day long, it was, I can't remember, but like 2+ hours to wait in line. And then it'd be this huge wait, and then, oh, it's down. And then it'd come back
right.
up, and then it'd be down. And just throughout the day, it just went down so many times. And I mean, hey, it's a cool ride. And yeah, I guess I get there's a lot of stuff that can break, but I was just amazed. I'm like, geez, I mean,
Yeah, it's
and
really
that was
unreliable.
one day. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's really unreliable.
I
And
did.
apparently they don't have as many problems in Disneyland.
I wonder
Like the
why.
Disneyland version of it doesn't go down as often as the Disney World version of it. So
Odd. Is it the humidity?
who knows? I
Right.
no idea.
I know. I did see a video. Just speaking of Rise of Resistance, I saw a video where I guess the Kylo Ren animatronic is notorious
Yeah,
for going down, and as a stopgap, they have something where I guess they can wheel him out and have a
yeah, they
screen, and they have a screen that just it plays him as a as a
right.
video. Um, and I guess they figured they're like, well, we better do this because if not, this ride's not going to be running at all. So you know. So
Yeah,
I thought that was probably kind of a clever way around it. They're like, all right, well, even if it's broken, they'll still get the gist.
yeah,
So
yeah. So, but I mean, all in all, the trip was really fun. We had a good
good.
time. I was glad to get back to the parks because I just sort of missed them.
Yeah, yeah.
So we had a lot of fun there. But I did one other thing, one bit of news that dropped after our last show,
Right.
and we've never gotten a chance to talk about, was the closing of the Star Wars, the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel.
Yeah, I
So
know.
that's crazy.
I mean, I feel like the last show we were actually talking about it. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know I was very surprised. I mean,
Yeah,
I knew they were having trouble. I knew they were, I knew they were, I assumed they were looking for ways to improve it, but just to come out and flat out shut it down, I was very surprised.
yeah. I was really shocked. I was like, I figured, I thought that they would try other things
And yeah,
before they went that route.
right.
I mean, I knew it was bad, right? Because it was like you could. I mean, there wasn't a cruise you could pick that was full, right? Like you
Right.
could go if you wanted to go. Like if you at the beginning of the week you decided you wanted to go on a Saturday,
It was
you
that. It
could
was
get on that
right.
cruise.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it was not selling out.
When is it? When does it officially close? In the fall?
In I think they close. I think it's right at the end of September because that's
Okay.
the
All
end
right.
of. And I think that's why they did it, is they were like, you know what, we're just going to take the loss.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because they're closing it at the end of what would be their fiscal year, because their fiscal
Okay.
year begins in October.
Yeah. It's
And and
crazy.
so I think they're just going to cut the cord and take the
Yeah.
loss on it, and then and apparently they don't really have, it's not like they're going to reopen it as something else. Like they're just, sounds like they're just
Yeah.
shutting it down.
I did see who's the guy that's in charge of the parks? Josh.
Just tomorrow.
Yeah, I did. He said something, and it was an offhanded comment, but he said that he made a comment that there are plans for it, but it was literally that he goes, "Oh, there." He goes, "Something's happening with it," and that's pretty much all he said.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's. I mean, you have a building there, and it's already themed. Is like, are you just going to make it a hotel? I mean, that would probably be the easiest thing to do, and then you could have a day trip. Yeah, then you could start having like shuttle
Yeah.
trips from Batu up to the restaurant.
But
Stuff like
it's
that.
really like, I don't know that it lends itself, having been there, I don't know that it
Yeah,
lends itself to being a hotel. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, especially with all these gorgeous Disney hotels you have all over
right,
that
right.
property. I don't know that this is not the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's no pool. There's no like shop. There's no
Right.
amenities. There's no, they don't have any of that stuff. Like the whole thing was built around this,
Right. Right.
show.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the show, then I think being in that
Right. Right. Yeah.
space is not very, and it's like the it was cool. Like it was like, I guess it was well themed, I guess, but not so much that you'd be like, oh, I just want to go stay in this like little hotel, because the rooms were kind of small,
Right. It was like the
you
whole
know,
cruise ship thing where it's like the rooms were
right.
tiny. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just don't know that it works. Like, I'll tell you, like having been there, I don't know that would be like if they opened it up as a hotel, I'd be like, I don't want to stay there,
Yeah.
because
Right.
like there's no pool, there's nothing,
Right.
you
You're
know?
right. Yeah, that's true too. I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking of the theming, but you're right. If it's like, right. I mean, one of the reasons you stay at these hotels is because they're awesome. You know what I mean? Because
Right,
there's like,
right,
and there's all these amenities and like when the kids were little, especially, it was all about the pool. And you know what I mean? It was like,
right.
that's all ever. Yeah. Yeah. So,
And
I
it's sort
mean,
of like out. It's literally like in the park in the
it's
cast
like,
parking of the cast parking lot of Hollywood Studios, right?
yeah.
So like all the cast members park there, and I mean
So
it's off
yeah.
on its own little thing, but it's not like you have a nice view of anything. Like
Right.
it's just very, it's. I
So
just don't know that it works
yeah.
as a hotel.
Yeah, in order to make it work, they'd have to invest an awful lot of
Right,
more money into it, which is not something they're looking to do right now.
right, right. Like it
Yeah,
probably works better as a like almost like you've been to the Hoop-de-Doo review, right? Like
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah,
like it might work better as something like that. Like you go there
yeah.
for dinner and there's like a little show involved or
Right.
something like that,
They could do
and you
right.
can
They
walk
could
around.
do the reverse shuttle from Batu. Do the shuttle up
Yeah,
there, have the Hoop-de-Doo review, which would be the show you guys see. The Ray
right,
and Kylo fight or whatever. Yeah, walk around, mess around with your phones, and do some of the
right,
adventures, maybe something like that, and then go
and
then
then right, and then you go home.
show's over, beat it.
Right, right. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just thought that,
Yeah,
like, I was really really surprised
I
when that
was.
announcement
Yeah,
came down.
I
You
was
know?
too, but I mean, they're not messing around anymore because like
Yeah,
it's different, but along the same lines, like they're like pulling these shows off the streaming services and writing them off. Like, Warner Brothers did it with the Batgirl movie they had made it was supposed to go to HBO Max, and
yeah,
they just canceled it and wrote it off. But then Disney did it with Willow, the Willow
yeah,
show. They had those, I think it was 8 episodes of it, and I watched it in real time, and I gave my review. I wasn't great. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like it, but it's gone. They
yeah,
just poof, and it went away, and they wrote it off, and it's just kind of like so you know, they're looking for ways to save money, and I guess they're getting creative with it. So, but I guess the same thing goes with an attraction like that. They're like, nope, shut it
yeah.
down, write it off. It's just crazy.
Well, that's kind of the danger of streaming, right? Like this is sort of what all of us who are like physical media people have been warning about. Like this,
Yeah,
there's they can pull the plug on something at any time, and then you
you don't have
don't
right.
have it.
Right.
You don't
Imagine
have
if you,
access to
yeah.
it.
Just imagine if you're one of the people that absolutely loved that Willow show, and there was, I, mean,
Right.
I did, there were some people,
There were people,
right,
right?
yeah,
I wasn't. Yeah, I never
right,
saw it. I
yeah,
wanted to see it, but I never. Now
but
I'm out of luck.
well, imagine if they I don't know, imagine if they turn around and like decided to pull like Book of Boba Fett off of there. Now I'm not,
Right.
parts of that I would be like whatever, but then on the flip side, I'm like, well, that's part of Star Wars now. I don't know when I'm going to watch it again, but I'd like it to be available to me.
Right. Right.
And there's
Right.
some key parts of that show which are very important to the overall Mandalorian story and all that stuff. So it's like, yeah, it's like that where you're like, oh, I didn't really think about that. I just assumed it would just be out here forever, and then you were beginning to
Yeah.
realize you're like, no,
Well,
no,
isn't that where the popularity of the Christmas special comes from? Because it wasn't that it was any good. It was this.
oh, right.
We couldn't watch it, and we wanted to.
It was banished forever.
And now if we have it, we're like, I don't care.
Right. Yeah, I know.
That should, but like that was part of the mystique of it, was that it was
Right.
out there and you couldn't watch it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's all these bootlegs and all, for years you had to buy at a convention some crappy VHS copy of it, I probably still have mine around here somewhere. I mean, Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I
So,
mean that's the thing. It's like they're they're doing these write-offs. It was one thing when they did with that Batgirl movie because that never even came out. And
right.
I'm like, well, all right. And I wasn't exactly jonesing for a Batgirl movie, but it's weird to me that it's a existing program that they just yank down and say we're getting rid of that. It's like, well, okay, and now now that's like encouraging the pirates, which I thought the whole idea was to get away from because
Right.
who knows?
Yeah. It's crazy stuff going on
Yeah, yeah,
with all the streaming services.
I know.
But anyway, but that oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish it.
I would just to touch on streaming really fast, as I noticed with Disney Plus, they have Avatar, The Way of the Water, the second one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that's on Disney Plus. I did watch it. I agreed with your previous review where it was okay. It was very enjoyable to look at, but it
Yeah.
was about a half hour too long and all that. But I found it odd that the same day it premiered on Disney Plus, it also premiered on HBO Max.
Yeah, that's weird.
And I'm like, oh, this is very interesting now. Like, so Disney's like, yeah, sure, you can have our movie too. I thought
Yeah,
that
that's
was weird,
weird.
but I guess it's a way for them to license it out and make some money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, and we're gonna talk about Indiana Jones in a few minutes, but now Indiana Jones is like everywhere. It's on Disney Plus, but it's on Amazon. I think it's on Paramount Plus. It's like it's like so.
Oh, really? It's gonna be yeah.
It's just all over. Not Dial of Destiny, but all the old
Oh,
movies. They're
yeah.
like everywhere now, and it's just kind of like, well, I guess somebody figured, well, sure, license them everywhere.
Yeah. Right.
Make
Right.
some
Right.
cash. So,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Anyway,
back to you.
that's
What were
enough of what I've been up to. Let's get to because I talked a lot about a bunch of stuff. So
that's fine.
What have you been up to?
Nothing geek related.
Okay.
We've just been super busy with like personal stuff. We went down the shore for the week and had a nice time down there. But I mean, the only thing that the being down the shore for just chilling out and relaxing, it afforded me. I was able to catch up on everything, which we're going to talk about tonight. And I did see the Avatar: Way of the Water, and I'm trying to think if I saw any other geek related stuff, but I think it's mainly been catching up on like other stuff. Like I started watching you remember the show The Shield? It was on FX years ago.
Oh yeah.
Michael Chiklis was in it. He's the bald, like a little short bald guy. So I started watching that, which I remember people saying how good it was, and I'm watching it now, and it's a good show, but it's like definitely early 2000s show. So it's like it's like he's a cop, but he's a dirty cop, and like it's when those characters were like sort of everybody wasn't a good guy. It's like the Tony Soprano and this show, and so but it's enjoyable. I've been liking that. I'm trying to think what else I watched that was really good. Oh, we watched it again, not geek related, but The Bear. It's on FX, or I'm sorry, it's on.
I want to see
Hulu.
that. I really want to see it. It's on my list of things.
That's really we're caught up. We watched seasons 1 and we just finished 2 down the shore, and that's very good. It takes place in a kitchen, and it's sort of about a family, but I say a kitchen in a restaurant, but behind the scenes of the restaurant. It's a really good show. So I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, I really want to see that because the guy that's in it, I don't even know his name, is the main character. He's from Shameless.
Yeah, and I never watched.
I loved him in Shameless. Like he was like my favorite character.
That's what my wife
when
was
I saw
saying.
He was in this. I was like, oh, I gotta watch that.
I never saw Shameless, but he's very good in this.
Okay,
he's really good. That's when my wife watched Shameless, and she was like, "Oh, he's So that's all. Now Shameless is on my list because I want to go watch that.
Yeah, that's a good show. That's a really good show.
I've heard it's really raunchy, but really good.
It is very raunchy.
Yeah.
It's not something to be watched with the kids, but it's a great show.
As long as you know going in, I don't mind that at all. That's funny. So, but yeah, really, that's all I've been doing, just catching up. Took it easy for a while, and then just catching up, and just like I said, a lot of busy, just family stuff, and just busy. So
yeah, I know. This month has been a whirlwind, or last month. We're now on the 10th of July.
I know. All of a sudden now it's like the 10th of July. I'm like, kind of what I think what happened? It's a whirlwind.
Right. Anyway,
so yeah. So all right. So
you ready to get started?
Yeah. So that's everything we've been up to. And I guess we'll get into. I'm calling up my screen here, so I know what we're doing here. So yes, so now it's time to talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
All right. So we have not spoken at all.
No.
About this. So I'm just as excited about hearing your review as as anybody else. So all right, let you start. What do you think?
All right. So, well, after that lead in, you might not be so excited after I.
Well, I kind of got the sense you were unhappy with it, but go ahead.
Okay. All right. So my overall big picture thing, it was okay.
Okay.
You know, I really, really wanted to like this. You know, it's Indiana Jones. It's the last movie. I was very excited about it. I went out and saw it opening weekend because our schedules didn't line up. So I'm like, we got to go see this. I drug my wife out. Yeah, but she wanted to see it too. But, I didn't hate it. It wasn't anything like that. It just was okay. It something didn't sit right with me, and I've been actually thinking about it quite a bit. And what I think it is, and I'm not 100% sure because it's probably going to change, but what I think it is there's two big, and they're not problems, but there's just two big things that make this movie so much different from the other Indiana Jones movies. And the first is that it wasn't as fun of a movie. Like, it didn't strike me as like
Right.
all the other ones like were fun and like funny and like, over the top to a certain extent. I mean, all of them were over the top, but over the top and like, I don't really think they ever took themselves too serious, So anyway,
Yeah.
so there's that whole thing. Whereas this movie's very different in that I feel like this movie is more serious, and it's not a bad thing. It's just not what I was expecting from an Indiana Jones movie.
Okay.
Like, so and full spoilers for the movie, but the movie starts out with Indy. I mean, we have that first opening sequence with the young Indy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
basically, when we get to present day, we find Indy is he's kind of depressed and he's kind of down in the dumps, and him and Marion have split up. And we find out later that Mutt, his son, has died. And, so it's just like, it's very different. It's just a very different take on Indy. So I think that may have been the one big thing where I just wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting maybe to be that heavy. I thought it was going to be more about, yes, he's 80 years old, but I didn't expect it to be heavy, maybe a good way to say it.
Okay. And I tend to agree. Like I was well, I'll get in what I think when you're done here. Finish your thought. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So that was my thing, is that it was just a very different movie. I have my little notes here, but different and not as fun. And then obviously, and again, because it's of his age and everything, there wasn't as many big over the top action sequences that you would expect. Again, I understand that because it's like one of those things where it's like, do you want a big action sequence that I'm going to kind of laugh at because it's an 80-year-old man running around? You know what I mean? Or did you try to temper it? So, but again, it just made the movie different. So, so I think I want to see it again, knowing what I know now, to see how I might process it, knowing it's a slightly different Indiana Jones movie.
Okay.
I guess is the best way to say it. There's a few other things we can talk about, but I'll now you go jump in here and what did you think about it? You just saw it yesterday, right?
Yeah, I just saw it yesterday, so it's still fresh in me. Yeah. I will tell you, I liked it more than I expected to.
Oh,
right.
Good.
Like,
okay.
I actually went into it. I think I went and I think seeing it as late as I saw it kind of helped me, because I tried to avoid as much as possible. I always try to avoid spoilers, but for this one in particular, because I know that like really anything Lucasfilm does at this point, there's some percentage of people out there who are absolutely going to hate it no matter what it is, and they were going to make that well known. So as much as possible, I tried to avoid all of that talk. Though that said, I was hearing that it wasn't doing well at the box office, that people really were unhappy with it. Like, I heard all that, but I was trying to avoid anything specific, right?
Right.
So I think I kind of went into it with like low expectations.
Okay,
like I was like, all right, well, it's going to be what it's going to be, and we went to see it. And but I was actually pleasantly surprised. Like, all of the things I was most worried about
didn't
happen.
Good. Okay.
You know what
all
I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like the thing I went into it that I was really worried about was I was like, is it really going to be Phoebe Waller-Bridges movie?
Right.
And it's like Indiana Jones really takes a back seat, and it's really her movie because they're gonna try to pass the torch to her, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen,
Right. Yeah.
right? And it really was his movie, you know,
Yeah. Very. Yeah.
for what it was. And I that really made me happy. Like I was happy about that.
Yes.
You know, like there wasn't like this clear. I mean, I think they sort of set it up, but I don't think there was like a clear like, oh, she's going to go forth now and take on the mantle of
Right.
Indiana Jones. I think they sort of set that up, but it wasn't like
yeah, if the movie
in
had
your
done
face,
right,
obvious that that's what they're going to do.
if the movie had done well, they could have given her own movie.
Right.
But yeah, there was never any indication that she was going to, like you said, take the mantle and be like Indiana. You know what I mean? It was just like,
right.
She might go have some other adventures. You know what I mean? Like it's
right.
something like,
right.
yeah.
So it, like I was actually I really was like I thought it was I hear what you're saying. Like I do think it was a bit heavier than other Indiana Jones movies. You know,
Yeah.
I you know, but I thought like I enjoyed it. I thought it was sort of a fun like you know, like I thought it was a little long. You know, like
right.
it was maybe like the action sequences that you're saying, like like the action sequences were all chases, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they were chasing all over the place, and I think sometimes those chases went on a little too long, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, so I hear you there. I think the movie was maybe a little long, but I mean, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I was sort of pleased with how it ended.
Okay. Yeah.
They're not pleased, but I wasn't like I was okay with how it ended.
Yeah.
I do hear like one of the things that I watched this. I mean, first of all, there's definite shades of the Star Wars sequels in this movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, he's separated from his wife again, and
You're
their
right.
son went, you know, and you know, like
Yeah.
I'm a little over now at this point. Like I'm kind of over the down and out hero of old.
Yeah.
Like in the present day, it's just sort of run like because we've had that with Luke, we've had that with Card, we've had that with Maverick, we've had it with
Yeah.
Indiana Jones now. Like, can we come up with a different like just like maybe make one of them successful and they're not happy with that success? I don't know.
I know.
Like
right.
I'm a little over this.
Right.
right.
You know, I understand. Yeah, it's like I understand from a story structure. Like you don't want to start with your hero at the top, but at this, you know, because then there's nowhere to go. But at the same time, it's like we keep if you're going to keep bringing our heroes back, you got to come up with a different formula.
Right, you got to come up with a different format.
Yeah, we've said it before, but I think that's what was so successful about season 3 of Picard was that like by that point everybody was back and in business.
Yeah,
and like we're like, this is what we want. You know, just
right.
bring them back, catch us up really fast. You know, like okay, let's have some fun. You know, you know, I don't need some big. You know, big horror story of of a life or whatever. You know.
Yeah, I mean that's like I thought it worked well in this movie.
I agree.
Right, like it's like, but I'm like it's almost becoming a trope now. Like, oh, okay, if we're gonna bring somebody back, they're down and out on their luck, and they're not, you know, things didn't work out for them the way they wanted, yada yada.
Yeah.
I did think it worked better in this movie than some of the other stuff we've seen, but
I do agree with that.
But I'm just like getting a little tired of it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know. I mean, there were like not that there weren't problems with it, like the movie, but like all in all, like I went in, I think I went into this expecting it to be a disaster,
like dreading it,
right, and it wasn't, and I was like, oh, this was a pretty good movie. I mean, you know, I think not seeing it when as soon as it came out sort of helped me. You know, I don't know.
Right. No, I think I could see that because like but yeah. But I went in though, like I was trying to avoid it, but I didn't do a very good job. just like I went in and I saw all this hatred for the movie. So
Yeah.
like I went in, like I was really dreading Phoebe Waller-Briggs's character Helena, right? I was like
Yeah.
dreading her because I'm like, okay, yes, there's a certain set of the audience that they're never ever going to like a Lucasfilm, Disney/Lucasfilm production, and if you have a strong female lead, they're never ever going to like that.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to put that aside, but like there was so much of it. I'm like, well, maybe there's something here, or maybe I was very worried about the characters. All I was going to say.
That's what I was worried. Right.
She wasn't my favorite character, but by design I don't think she was supposed to be like the first.
Right. She's not supposed to. Right. She's not supposed to be likable initially.
Yeah, the first half of the movie, you're like, well, who is this? Some goddaughter. It's not. So, but I was, very relieved. I'm like, no, there's nothing wrong with this character. Like it's all baseless. All the hatred she was receiving.
It really is. And today, just sort of to prep for the call tonight and everything, I was like, well, let me see if I can find some stuff on YouTube. Oh my God, like it's all like flop. Disaster, like all of it, and it's just like, look, I mean, it's certainly not the best Indiana Jones movie, but
I mean,
I feel like it's better than, like, for me, I thought it was better than Crystal Skull. I liked it more than I liked Crystal Skull. I mean, it's probably fourth. I don't think it's as good as the old ones. But it's better than Crystal Skull. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I don't know.
Like I said, I think I agree with you there. And like I said, it's like once I wrapped my head around it, then I realized I'm like, oh, it's not that it was and I didn't come out saying I hate it. I'm just like, oh, that was fun,
right.
But the more you wrap your head around, the more you think about it, you're like, oh, it wasn't a bad movie. It was just a different movie. It was just, but by nature it had to be because it, they. First of all, because of his age and all that stuff, but also like they tried to recreate the originals with Crystal Skull, and it didn't work. What would have maybe worked in the 80s came across as silly in the
right.
2008 was when that came out. You know what I mean? Like, and so like, I mean. So, but I'm glad they made it different, But I wish I had a few more fun moments in it. That's all. I guess that would be the best.
I agree with that. Like it was a little like there was always a little bit of humor in there.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like this had much humor. Like the humor was all in the dialogue between. Like there was no. I don't know. There wasn't anything fun. You never felt like I heard somebody say today, like, I don't know that Harrison Ford ever smiled in this movie. And I'm like, he may be right. Like, I don't know.
Even like silly things like in like Temple of Doom, like my absolute favorite part is like he's looking at the little hole and he's like, "We are going to die," right? And I remember you and I laughing at that as kids when we would watch it, and there's gifs of it now, and I mean, it's but it's like stuff like that. Now, yes, that's also comes with time as you watch something over and over again and all that. But like in this movie, like there's not a lot of of things like that, and maybe as time goes on, maybe something will pop out that I missed, or maybe it'll become funnier with the future watches of it. But so I don't know. I'm still torn. I do want to watch it again. What did you think of? We'll get into a couple of things here. What did you think of? First of all, the ending, the time travel. How did that sit with you?
I thought they handled that pretty well. It's not what I was expecting.
Right.
Like I don't really know what I was like. I don't really know what I was expecting. I don't know if I was expecting the one thing I thought. I really didn't know what to expect with the time travel thing. I mean, when he said on the plane about the the plate, tectonic shift and all that, I was like, oh wow. So where are they going to end up? And I wasn't expecting them to end up there, but I thought that was cool. Like I thought it was an interesting way to go.
Right.
And they did sort of hint to it because, like, on the tomb, that's one of the reasons I want to see it again is because on his tomb, she's like, oh, this is propellers, and it looked to me like in the scene at the end, like, the plane had crashed and the propellers were all bent, and I think that's how they were on the relief on the tomb, and now I kind of want to go back and like see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was fine with it. I thought that it sounds like a lot of people didn't like that. There were a lot of people were really upset about how that all worked out. I thought that was fine. I mean, it's not what I expected, but I was okay with it.
I don't know. I thought at some point, and the movie made it clear that early on, or at some point, that wasn't going to happen. With the whole thing with Marion, I thought that was going to be how he got her back at the end of the movie. Like, going into the movie, I knew there was going to be time travel, and I thought that was going to be the
right.
But then as the movie's going on, you're like, oh, she's not dead. She's just, they're separated. So then I'm like, oh, I guess it's not going to play out like I thought, And so when it did go there, I'm like, oh, they're actually, and then I thought there was going to be like, I thought maybe it was going to be more mysterious. Like they were going to hint that time travel could happen. And then maybe the portal would open, or maybe there'd be something, but I didn't expect them to actually time travel. I didn't expect that part of it. So when they went through it, I'm like, oh, they time traveled. I was like, oh, well, I didn't expect that. And it sort of pushed up against the aliens from Crystal Skull a little bit for me, where I'm like, oh, it's not supernatural now. We've time traveled. Oh, okay, this is different.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike it, but I was like, okay, this is what I expected. But I did think it was clever how he starts talking about the continental drift and all that stuff. But I thought it was neat how they're like, no matter what you put in this dial, we were coming back to
right
this place.
Like I thought that was right. Like I thought that was cool. Yeah.
It was here. Somebody pointed this out. I was reading something instead of like here, and I can't remember the bad guy's name, but the Nazi, he wanted to go back and
kill Hitler.
Kill Hitler and sort of save what he thought, and then take it for Hitler. But here it was a flip. It was like this guy basically from the past calling for help, hoping they could get somebody to come back and help him. And I thought that was kind of neat. Like it was like a little bit of a parallel there. That was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah, I was fine with the time travel. I thought it was, at the beginning of the movie, that first 20 minutes when they de-age Harrison Ford, when they de-age him, and he's got that little adventure. There's a point on the train where his little companion there, whatever his name is, says, "I got this for you," and it's like his hat and his whip, and he looks at it like kind of strangely, like, or how did that get here, or something like that. And I was like, and all through the movie, I was thinking somehow he's going back to then. And he's gonna leave, and he's gonna leave the whip and the hat.
Okay,
I was thinking that was going to. So I was sort of surprised when it was like, no, it wasn't any of that.
Right. That's pretty. That would have been pretty cool, though. That would have been pretty clever if they had, like, it would have been almost, like Back to the Future-ish, where it's like,
right. Well, exactly.
That would have been really cool, though. That would have been fun.
Yeah. So I liked it. I mean, I can't like, if you wanted to go see it again, I'd go see it again. I thought it was a pretty good movie. I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not Raiders will always be my favorite. Like there's no hands down Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite.
I would say, I mean, if I take Star Wars out of it for a minute, just because Star Wars is its own beast, but favorite movie is Raiders for me. You know what I mean? Like, just anything else, it's just like, to me, that's just like a perfect movie. Like
it really, truly.
Yeah.
And what's funny is, like, and I did this is one of the things I wanted to talk about, because we watched, we're sitting around the other day and we were talking about going to the movie on Sunday.
Yeah.
And, and my son, and I was like, have you ever even seen any of these movies? And he's like, no, I've never seen a Raiders. He's never seen any of them. And it was weird because it was like, I started thinking about it and I was like, well, these weren't like always these movies are a little bit more, not that they're horror elements, but you didn't want to show them to them when they were like little.
Right, right.
So we didn't do it in like a family movie night or anything. And then, because my daughter's 3 years younger than my son, so when he
Right.
was able to watch, she wasn't, like that kind of stuff. So consequently, he's never seen any of these movies.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, "How have you never seen any of these?" And so I put it on, and you know what? They don't, it like the appeal of those movies that they had to us,
Right.
they don't get it. And what's like, it's not a movie for them. Like they don't really have a whole
No.
lot of interest in it. And now, of course, this is all, I'm not speaking of children in general. I'm just my anecdotal experience. But like when we went on Sunday, Katie had no interest at all in
Okay.
going, and my son was like, "Yeah, I don't really care."
Okay.
So Bridget and I went,
Yeah, yeah. That's
and
what we
and
same here. I asked the girls, I'm like, you guys want to go? They're like, no.
yeah, they had no
Like,
interest whatsoever, and it's just like that shocks me because like I love this character, I love
yeah.
these movies, and to our kids, they're just not
That's
not
what
interested.
I did see that them saying, when they were saying about why the movie wasn't doing as well as they had hoped and all that stuff. And that's one of the things they said. They said, oh, it just doesn't. It's a oh, they didn't say that this way, but they're like, oh, it's a old people franchise. And I'm like,
Yeah,
what? I was like, what? And then yeah, they're like the young people just aren't interested. And I was fascinated by it. I was like, what? But if you're, like this time, like even this time period when they're in the, what was it, 69 when the movie took place?
yeah,
That's ancient history to our kids.
yeah.
So if you
Well,
go back and they go back even further, it's like it's just ridiculous to them. It just blows their
yeah.
minds. They can't, they just can't even fathom, like, like,
Well, it's sort of like, and not that World War II to us was fresh because it wasn't.
right.
But I was born in 71. We were 30 years removed from World War II, right? And our grandparents
They fought in the war.
experience
Right.
fought in the war. They were like, we got first, like it was a bigger deal to us, I think.
Yes, I think
You
very
know,
much so.
and to my kids, it's sort of like World War II, sort of like this, amorphous, like,
Yeah.
not that,
Well,
they know it's important, they know it happened, and
right.
but it's like it doesn't have the impact on them that I think it had on us.
Right. Well, it would be like when we were in school when they would talk about, and now it's a little bit different for you because you're a history buff, but when they were talking about the Civil War, like
Yeah.
that was always so, like, again, I knew that was important, but I had no personal connection to it, or, you know what I mean? It was
Right,
never
right,
like,
right.
you know what I mean? There was nothing to it. It was just like, well, that happened and that, that's part of history and stuff. Whereas World War II, your grandparents were around to be like, oh, I fought here, or oh, I worked in the shipyards, and like there was all this,
Right, right,
you know what
right.
I mean? Yeah. Whereas now, yeah, these guys are just kind of like it's just some far off thing,
Yeah, yeah. So
and and I would, and two, I mean, it was also the whole, there's Harrison Ford and there's George Lucas and there's Steven Spielberg, and those, especially those original three, that they meant something to like a generation of people. Like it was a whole movie making thing. And then it went away for a long time. And then when it came out in 2008 with the Crystal Skull, I think that was part of the problem with Crystal Skull, is that, like, for us, we're like, oh, this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. And I think a lot of young people were like, who's Indiana Jones? You know what I mean? Or like,
yeah,
they're like, it's funny. Like even when I just said it right now, I'm like, Indiana Jones. It's like, to me, I'm like, Indiana Jones. That's cool. He's awesome. But if you say
yeah,
it's hokey,
yeah,
and
yeah,
if you don't buy into it, right, you don't get it. You know what I mean?
yeah. And like, how long had it been when Last Crusade came out,
Right.
or when Crystal Skull came out? How long had it been since Last Crusade
Last Crusade was 89.
was 89, and
Right.
Crystal Skull was 08?
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
So
I think it was.
yeah, and I think that's part of, like, Lucasfilm just never, like, this was not a property that they really even
Yeah.
even when Lucasfilm was its own thing, it was not a property that they were keen on keeping
Yeah, it's not like they,
alive.
they didn't feel the need to churn the movies out. It was like, I think it was like, oh, I have a good idea. Do you want to do it? And if their schedules lined up, they made it happen. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
but I think, during the 90s, Harrison Ford got busy and he was doing all his other movies and Jack Ryan, and he was doing all
yeah,
that stuff. And you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I guess, and I'm Spielberg was really busy and stuff like that too. And then Lucas started up with the prequels, and so I guess it just never happened. And I mean, these guys are all friends, so maybe it was just like, hey, you want to do this? Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, let's do that. And then if it didn't work out, it wasn't forced. If it happened, it happened type of thing. And then
yeah,
I don't know though. It's kind of a
yeah,
shame. One of the things that the opening sequence of this movie makes you realize is like, damn, like really wish we had another Indiana Jones movie when he was young.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
even if it had taken place after the Crystal Skull, because I believe. Now wait a minute. Crystal Skull. No, Crystal Skull was I forget what year that was supposed to be in. 50 something, right?
It was supposed to be in the 50s. I don't remember exactly when,
Yeah.
but it was there. It was
Right.
like it was after the
Yeah.
war.
Right. Right. So yeah, so then right in the beginning of this, it's during the war, so it was earlier then.
Yeah,
Okay, right. Yeah, yeah. But it would have been nice to have, if it had another movie or two when he was young. I mean, running, because even when Crystal Skull came out, back then people were making jokes that he was too old, you know.
right, right, right,
Yeah. So I mean, imagine if we had gotten like two more movies in the 90s,
right, right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really a shame. And then I heard somebody saying today, like even with comics, like they didn't like I collected the Marvel comic when we were younger,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
but that wasn't out for very long, and then that guy got killed. And I don't know that they
Yeah.
ever came out with another series, right?
They used to do little mini series, and I have a bunch of them somewhere in terms of on the computer somewhere. But like, to be perfectly honest, they were never very good. Like,
Yeah,
there's something like about Indiana Jones. It's very visual and action based and all that stuff. And the comics were always, they never grabbed me, and I was a fan. I remember reading them. There was one that was like the Spear of Destiny, which ironically enough is the fake in the beginning of this movie.
yeah,
And I remember that's something that in DC Comics they used to brandish that around. They used to say that's what Hitler used during World War in the DC universe. What Hitler used during World War II to prevent the superheroes from coming near him because it had the magic powers or something.
okay,
And
okay,
it was always a fascinating MacGuffin within DC. So I was always like, oh, when they mentioned it with Indiana Jones, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'd like to know more about that. And if it had been rumored that would be another MacGuffin for his movies over the years, but even reading that, I'm like, it just didn't.
yeah,
Without the action, it just didn't cut it for me. So,
yeah.
you
And
know,
even like in video games, like I was like and I've said this for a long time. There should be a lot of Indiana Jones video games because I think it lends itself to that.
yes, yeah.
But there really aren't. Like there were a lot in like I feel like there were a lot in the 90s,
I
and
think
then there really
yes,
hasn't been
there was
anything
that.
since.
Right, that one we played was Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine. I
Yeah,
remember playing when you and I were roommates living together. I remember
right,
like I was in my room and you were in your room, but we're both playing the game.
right.
But then I think after that, I just watched a really quick thing about the history of video games. And like I said, there's a bunch of littler games when the movies were out, when there was more active
Yeah,
media. And then there was like that. But in the meantime, Tomb Raider came out with Laura Croft, and like that
exactly.
that spawned its own franchise. And it's kind of like all those years, I'm like, that should be Indiana Jones, like
Right, right,
that's
right, right.
yeah. Now I do
Because
know there's
I mean, with the whip and everything, it really lends itself
yeah,
well to a video game, and I don't
yeah,
understand why there aren't better video games
yeah. That you
with
think
the
they right.
character.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know what I hear everybody talks about the Fate of Atlantis was one of the big video games they did. And
Yes,
that was early on. So I don't think it's by today's standards, I don't think it's a great game, or I don't think the
yeah,
graphics hold up. But I remember people talking about that, saying that was a very good game.
yeah.
But I never played that. And
I've never played it, but I've heard the same thing.
yeah.
And you know what? Like, and I go back to I've said this before about Star Wars games. The Lego franchise. Now,
Right.
The Lego franchise of video games, I mean, they're all sort of basically the same thing, but they came out with an Indiana Jones game that was quite good, two of them.
Right. Okay.
They
All right.
and they were quite good, I
Yeah.
mean, so like but it's funny that it's like that's like in recent years, like that's the game. It's the
Right.
Lego franchise that is
But I feel like that's
had
with yeah.
yeah.
I feel like that's with everything though, because it's like Star Wars and Indiana Jones, but even like I mean, all of Marvel. Like I haven't played a Marvel video game in forever.
Yeah.
But when the kids were a couple years ago, when they were younger, when all the what I mean, we were playing the Marvel superheroes game, Legos,
Yeah.
and that was their exposure to all the Marvel stuff early on. Is the same thing. It's just like uh,
Yeah, and those games are good too, the Marvel ones.
yeah, and we did Batman. They had the Batman Lego
Yeah.
games and all that stuff. So we have the trailer running here in the background. What did you think about the opening sequence with the de-aging technology and all that stuff? Did that work for you? Did it kind of work? Did it not work? What did you think about that?
I thought it was fine. I mean, I there were moments where I was like, um, there were moments I noticed,
Yeah,
and but on the whole, I thought it was pretty good. Now, I'm not a big like the CG stuff. Like I've said before, I'm very forgiving when it comes to CG, unless it's like distractingly bad.
right.
Then I don't really have a problem with it. And I felt like for the most part it wasn't distractingly bad. So I was fine with it. There were moments where I was like, yeah, that doesn't look great. But on the whole I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah,
Um I did have what I wanted to ask you about this. The big like guy
right.
that was like the big goon guy that was
Yeah,
like huge.
right.
Was he CG'd?
I don't think so. I think he's just a big
Because
guy.
I kept looking at that guy and he didn't look right to me. Like I thought, like Indiana Jones, the de aging on Indiana Jones, I thought was fine. But like every time that guy was on the screen, I was
even
like,
even in the
something doesn't look. Yeah,
even
I was
in
like,
the okay.
I was like, something doesn't look right about that guy. And
The
I thought
guys.
he was CG'd.
Oh, haven't seen or heard anything about that. He was just a really big guy, and I I don't think I ever thought that he didn't look right, but I did think that like back then guys weren't that big. Like you know what I mean? Like he stood out to me because like he's obviously a modern day guy that knows how to put the muscle on and do all that stuff now.
Yeah,
But back
yeah,
then, those guys didn't know how to do that. And that's why we had the mechanic, the German mechanic guy. At the time, we remember thinking like, oh, that German mechanic guy was huge that was fighting Indiana Jones.
yeah,
But he's not. He's just a big guy. But yeah, this guy was just, yeah, he was like almost comically large.
yeah. Just
Yeah.
every time he was on the screen, I'm like, is that guy just really big, or did they
Yeah.
CG him?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have to look.
Something didn't look right about him to me. I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I just thought I'm like, oh, but yeah, I basically I was like, oh, it's a big guy, but it's a modern
Yeah,
bodybuilder type of guy set in the past. So I chalked it up to that, but yeah, who knows? Who knows what they were doing?
but yeah, on the whole, I thought the CG was pretty good, and
I
I
thought
thought it
yeah,
was it was even better. Like when they did. All right, so they did the flashback to the 1940s,
right.
and then they did a flashback at one point where he was like 1950s, so it would have been like the age of he would have been this when his friend like goes crazy, right?
Oh, when he goes back to this house and he meets
Right,
Helena, who's a little girl there. Yes,
right,
yeah,
right, right, right.
that was actually really good
And
then.
I thought that was really good. Like I didn't on the whole I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah,
You know,
I thought it was good. I agree with you. The best way to say it would be I just can't wait for the time that they can, and I don't know if this will ever happen, that they can do it and my brain will not even think about it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
because the whole time I'm watching it, there's like you're following the movie, you're following the adventure, you're enjoying yourself, but then there's always that other level. I'm like, oh, that looks pretty good. I don't know about that shot. That looks pretty good. And like, and and I hate that basically because I just want to turn my brain off and enjoy the movie. I just want to enjoy the scene. And we said the same thing about Luke in not as much in Mandalorian, but in Book of Boba Fett when he had that whole episode basically. The whole time you're like, I'm really interested in the story. I really want to know what's going on here, but I don't know about that.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
so,
I think it helped that it was like that scene all took place at night. Everything was very dark. Like, so they had the lighting just in such a way that it was very forgiving. But yeah, I mean, there were some shots like that shot when they pulled the mask or the hood off, and you're like, wow, that's him. I mean, there were some shots that were really, really good.
No, I agree. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't think they'll ever get it. It could look flawless, but I think just because in your head, like you're already in on the illusion type of thing.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you're never going to be able to be like, oh, like if Harrison Ford dies and they make another Indiana Jones movie, you're not going to be like, well. I mean, you just know too much now,
right?
I guess.
Now, I will never forget. I hear a lot of people. So for Rogue One, when Grand Moff Tarkin is in that movie, I hear a lot of people crap on that because they don't think he looks good in Rogue One, maybe by today's standards. But I do hear people say that. But I remember leaving the theater, and I remember thinking he looked good, but my wife and kids didn't realize he wasn't a real actor. I said, what did you think about the old guy? And I explained who he was. And they said, yeah, he was fine. Why? And I go, oh, he's been dead for 10 years or however many years.
Right.
And they're like, really? And they were really, so that always stuck with me. I'm like, it's part of your brain that if you know type of thing.
Right.
If they could come out in, hopefully he lives a long, healthy life. So 20 years from now, they come out with an Indiana Jones movie that's all CG. We're going to go and we're going to be like, yeah, it looked okay. But then a kid could go and be like, that was awesome. Who was that guy? Well, he's been dead for, so overall, I like that. The only other one last thing I want to talk about, which is a little bit kind of serious in a way, is that in Raiders and in Last Crusade, the Nazis were the bad guys, and I liked them as the bad guys. And in this one, it suddenly, and maybe because I'm an adult now, or maybe because there were Nazis in front of Disneyland the other day with their flags,
right,
Disney World, but like I suddenly didn't find them as amusing. You know what I mean? And it was jarring a little bit because, again, it's not the same type of Indiana Jones movie. And, the weight in this one where he's like, he goes, my memory's a little hazy. Are you still a Nazi? Like it carried like a different weight given the real world circumstances of today. Guys legitimately out there waving Nazi flags around. And I just found that fascinating because I remember after the initial Indiana Jones, the first three, Spielberg did Schindler's List. And after he did Schindler's List, which was great, but after he did that, he's like, yeah, I think I'm done with Nazis as bad guys. And being a younger person and a little bit less mature type of thing, I remember thinking like being disappointed that he would say that. Now on the flip side, I'm like, dude, I totally understand why you said that.
Well, you're right. Well, it almost like, like we kind of got used to the idea, like they were sort of like the
comic booky, the
comic booky, right? Bad guys, and now it's sort of like, well, I mean, I did think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, right. It just makes you realize now, which is like you said, we were younger, and so we're just like they're the ultimate bad guy. They're Nazis. They have cool. They have cool air quotes uniforms, and and then you realize now you're like, no, they were Nazis. Like they were bad guys. Like that was not good.
Right. Like there's nothing funny about really.
Yeah. And again, right, we were so far removed from that part of it, whereas like, now you're like, ooh,
I mean, one of the things I'll tell you, one of the things I did like is I liked that it, and spoiler alert, like you find out in the end that he's not going back, like the bad guy doesn't want to go back in time to kill Churchill or Roosevelt or one of these people to try to win the war. He wants to go back in time to kill Hitler because he feels like, because he said early on in the movie, you didn't win the war, Hitler lost it.
Yes.
And there was that sentiment, right? That like, well, yeah, Hitler was bad, right? But a lot of the stuff that he was doing wasn't so bad. Like that kind, you know what I'm saying? Like, like it was Hitler that went wrong, not the ideology, right?
Oh, I
and
see.
And I thought that was sort of an interesting take.
Yeah, yeah.
Given a lot of the things that are going on in the world today, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought I sort of thought that was an interesting way they handled that. That was what his idea was, not to eliminate, his idea was to get rid of Hitler because he feels like Hitler went wrong, but not the direction they were going.
Yeah, not the Nazis, and he wasn't going to kill.
Right.
He right. The usual time travel thing is, oh, would you go kill baby Hitler type of thing, and this is like,
right.
He's like, I want to kill Hitler, but not for the reasons,
right.
not for the reasons any normal sane person would.
right. So I thought that was it. There were two things like that. I thought that was really interesting, that how they dealt with that. And the other thing I thought was really interesting was how they dealt with Mutt.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, and I really, I mean, it's very sad, right?
Yeah.
Like that situation, right? But like, I liked how they dealt with it, because this is, he said, if he could go back in time, he talked Mutt out of enlisting.
Yeah.
But, and being a history person, like the what's really interesting about that is that was a thing, right? Like for a lot of the soldiers that served in Vietnam, a lot of them went initially. I mean, then the draft came,
right.
But like initially, a lot of them signed on and they wanted to go, and
the
reason why was because they had parents who had been in World War II, and they thought this is our opportunity to go and be like World War II. And what they found when they got there was that the experience was
nothing
like World War II.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a really interesting, like I like that they put that in here. And I mean, it was sad that Mutt died. I mean, that said, like, I think nobody was Mutt wasn't a great character, so I don't think anybody's really unhappy to see Mutt go.
And we all knew Shia LaBeouf wasn't coming back.
Right, he's got his own problems.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was very, very. And it's actually now, it's very well thought out, very, very nice, like historically accurate way of saying, well, okay, Indiana Jones is, his son died, and it's like, here's. Like, right, here's he went, here's why he enlisted and all that stuff, but like you just said, but then also here's the ramifications of it, and so
right.
I did that was it was all very, like I said, it was all very well thought out, all very just and not saying in a bad way, but just not maybe what I was expecting,
like there were some deep things here, deeper than I think maybe some other Indiana Jones movies. There were some there were some things that he Mangold interjected that are kind of heavy,
well, even I mean, even with with Last Crusade, there's Indiana's dad, and there's that dynamic, and there's going back and forth, but a lot of it is played for comedy. What I mean? They're mending their relationship, but it's a lot of it's very funny, but like this by default, it's it's more
it's serious. Heavier material.
So I want to see it again. I want to watch it again with a different set of eyes. And I think like I said, I was thinking about it a lot. I think that was my main disconnect, is that, I think a lot of people might be going into this expecting, another Indiana Jones movie. And it's like, yes, it is another one, but it's very different. It's, it's very different. And, but by two standards, like I said, given his age, it's going to be different no matter what. But then also just the materials, much more serious, and then the end of his career, and it's a very, I'll be curious to see how time treats this one versus Crystal Skull. Crystal Skull is still a lot of people. And actually, I do want to go back and rewatch all of them at some point. I mean, the early ones I've seen plenty of times, but Crystal Skull I haven't seen that many times. I'd like to go rewatch that again at some point.
Yeah, the only other thing, the one thing that that stood out for me that I was like, well, that's a little, because when he goes back to after it's all over,
right.
And he goes back, and he was going to stay. And
for
a while there, I wasn't sure he wasn't going to stay. Like I was like, are they really going to leave him in the pit? I don't know if I would have liked that. I'm glad they didn't go that direction.
Yeah.
But like for a minute there, I was like, no, they're going to leave him. And then he wakes up and he's back in the apartment, and Marion says to him, "Are you back?"
Yeah.
And I was, and that thing, I was a little like, well, I don't know, like 5 minutes ago he was going to stay back like 1,000 years ago and just die, and like he was okay with that. So
right,
like does that mean he's back necessarily?
Right.
But I was like, okay, but I didn't mind the ending. I was just that one little nitpick.
Yeah, well, I read something that said, because I remember thinking the same thing similarly, but then it was like, are you back? But then here in the movie, he said that Marion was so distraught by Mutt and couldn't get over it.
Right.
She left. But here, I think
it's really right.
It's really him. He's really
right.
the one. He got so distraught and he pulled so far away that that's why I think the "Are you back?" is more, yes,
right.
Are you back from time travel? But I think it's really more like, are you back? Are you okay? Like type of thing.
Yeah.
And it was nice. I tell you what, it was really nice to see Karen Allen again. I was really,
it was
nice to see her again. And it was a little hokey, but like where's it hurt here? From Raiders. I partially, I did both, rolled my eyes a little bit like, oh, but then I'm like, oh, I like this.
Yeah, that was a good right. Yeah, and I thought it ended pretty, and it's like I said, like they sort of leave the door open.
I did like that last, the very last shot with the peephole thing, and he comes out and grabs his hat.
Yeah, right. So that like if she came back, like they didn't kill him,
right?
So that if they decide, okay, we're going to go with and do something with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and she's going to be the new Indiana Jones, he can still be a part of the film, as like an advisor or whatever, and he's not going to be doing any of the, like, I think this is the last Indiana Jones.
Yes,
that is hands down. There may be a movie that follows that Indiana Jones is in, but it's not going to be his movie. That's kind of where. But given the box office, I don't know.
I know. Yeah, I was part of a conversation today, and somebody was saying, they're like, "Oh, do you think we'd get a short round Disney Plus series?" And I was like, well, two things. One, given the box office, I don't think they're going to go anywhere near that, just in general. But also, the way streaming is, we were just talking about earlier about how they're pulling all the shows and all that stuff. I mean, I can't see Disney saying like, all right, we're going to invest all this money in a short round TV show because it's like action adventure and a time period. They're just going to have to throw so much money at it. I'm like, yeah, as much as I'd love to see a one-off short round adventure. Yeah. I think that'd be hysterical and great and a lot of fun. And I can't remember Short Round's real name in real life, the actor's name.
Yeah, Ki-Hu Kwan. Is it
Ki-Hu Kwan? Maybe that sounds about right. And as much as I've really come to like him and enjoy him,
I just don't think they'll do it.
I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, and
they're not. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, people were disappointed he didn't show up in this movie, but when they made this movie's actually, we know because we've been talking about it for so many years now, but he hadn't made his big comeback when they did this movie initially.
Right. And if he did come back, where would they put him? They put him in the apartment at the end where there's like 50 people in the apartment.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah.
So
I mean, even poor Sala, as much as I enjoyed seeing him again and everything, I'm like, Indiana Jones was like, oh, you can't come with me. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Why? Indy would have like. I was a little disappointed. I'm like, well, what do you mean you're not bringing Sala?
Yeah, bring Sala.
Bring Sala. Let's go. Yeah.
You bring the cab. What was it?
Oh, I said no camels. That's 5 camels.
That's my favorite line in that
movie. Well, so
can't
many
you
of them.
Count?
Yeah, can't you count? That's like so many of those things are like little, like we'd sit there and watch it over and over and over again on VHS and rewind the different lines, and like it's like that line. Like I don't know if anybody actually remembers that line from the movie, but we've heard it. We thought it sounded very funny. we rewound it a million times.
I remember getting that. Like I loved, and while Raiders of the Lost Ark is always my favorite, I still love Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
And that scene on the bridge.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, it's just so fantastic when he's on the bridge and he's holding the sword over his head, and he yells to Short Round in Chinese or whatever.
Right.
I mean, it's just like that is just such a great scene.
Oh yeah, that's all right. That's great. That whole bridge sequence is great.
Yeah.
I was when in this movie there was like a small like footbridge that was reminiscent of the big bridge.
Yeah,
I was like, when they first came across it, I thought it was going to be a much bigger set piece, so to speak. And it just was a bridge. But I was like, hoping there'd be more to it.
Strong bridge, strong wood. He's just like jumping up and down. Yeah. I like this movie. I hope people go see. I mean, I know it's not doing great. It saddens me, but I hope people go to see it. It's a good movie. It really is.
Right. Yeah. If you're a fan of the Indiana Jones movies, definitely try to see it in the theater. I mean, yes, it will be out on video and streaming and all that stuff soon, I'm sure. But I mean, of all the movies out right now, if you're going to see something in the theater, it might as well be this one. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. I don't really even.
I don't even know what else is coming up for the rest of the summer.
Oh, you know what's out now is Mission Impossible is coming out, which I'm not a big fan of those movies. They've never really done anything for me. But they were saying that I think if Indiana Jones is on IMAX, it's getting bumped this week for Mission Impossible. Yeah, I
think I saw the first 2 of those, and then I didn't see anything after that.
Yeah, I saw a couple of them here and there, and like they were always okay, but like they never, I mean, other than Maverick, Tom Cruise isn't my favorite, and
he was
those movies never grabbed me, like, and like they try to. It's like they're sequels, so like, but every time I'm like, who's this guy again? And the guy's been in the last 8 movies, but I'm like, who's he again? I'm like, who the hell's this guy?
I don't care about
right. I don't. Yeah.
There were no action figures for these.
That's right.
No, I'll tell you what I do think is cool is they re-released all the action figures for Indiana Jones.
The retro ones,
the retro ones. I think is pretty cool.
I know.
I haven't bought any of them, but I'm like,
well, you still have the original. You still have the original Indy somewhere.
I do, but I don't know if he because some of the GI Joe ones, and I don't know if they were made the same way, but like the GI Joe ones had that like rubber band that kept the 2 pieces together. And that rubber band on the ones I had sort of dry rotted.
Yeah, that's a common problem with the old GI Joes. Now I have 2, and last time I looked, they were still good. I mean, I didn't sit there and pull them apart, but because we had the one guy, Recondo.
I had the Navy guy.
Oh, you had Shipwreck. I remember him.
Shipwreck, yes.
But we had Recondo that we used as Indiana Jones. Do you remember him?
Oh
He
yeah.
had like the hat, but he had camo pants on. But you had the real Indiana Jones figure, but the figures they like
Yeah, I never liked them.
they
Right.
sat like with a big giant
Yeah.
V, and it was so Indy could fit on the horse figure, but all the figures did that, and it just wasn't a great figure. And it
No,
did,
no.
yeah,
And the
wasn't
whip was just like a string.
a
It
string,
wasn't
right? Yeah.
very cool.
So
That's right. I forgot about that guy.
I remember we got Rakondo, and we used to use him, and I had the other GI Joe guy. I had Mutt and his dog. I remember we used to play with
Yeah.
those guys. That Mutt was
Yeah.
Indy's sidekick for that adventure.
Yeah. That's hysterical. I totally forgot about that.
I still have them in the drawer over there. I keep thinking, I'm like, oh, I should get those out and display them too. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that my Rakondo survived.
Oh, you don't know?
I don't think I have him.
Oh, was that? I would assume you would have had him, but maybe I had him.
I wonder if it broke or something.
Maybe it did along the way. Yeah. I don't. I do remember you having shipwreck though. I remember.
Yeah. Now that you say that though, I was like, oh yeah, we did that all the time.
Yeah. Because for a while there, because we had I do remember playing. We would play Indiana Jones a lot with those guys. I remember we were talking about the bridge sequence earlier. I remember building the bridge out of popsicle sticks. I remember having that. And I remember we used to use the Rancor Keeper as Mola Ram.
I think he even came with a machete, didn't he?
The Rancor
Didn't
Keeper?
Rakondo? No.
Rakondo?
Didn't he have a machete?
No, not that I remember. He has a like a rifle, like a machine, like a rifle machine gun. It's all molded, but has like he's supposed to be like a jungle trooper or something. That's his real, that's what the real figure is. But he's got like a mustache, like Magnum PI. He's got, so he's like a merging of Indy and Magnum and the Rakondo.
Nice.
And we're like, all right, he's our Indiana Jones now.
I wonder if that was a thing because like Tom Selleck was tried out. Like that would be a very meta thing.
Yeah, right.
Interesting. All right, but we digress. Now we're talking about.
I know. Now we got to talk about toys. Yeah. But yeah,
do we move? Are we good with?
On. I keep thinking about getting some of the retro indie figures because they're making some other ones that they never made. Like they did Short Round and they did Henry Jones Sr. and Sala and I think that's it so far. They did all,
and they had some play sets that I don't think they ever came out with. Like there was like I swear I've seen a couple of play sets for it.
For now
for now.
For the retro figures, I don't think so. But for the Black Series, which are the 6-inch guys,
they
have certain things coming with them. Like I saw just the other day, it was from Temple of Doom, the skull with where they put the Sankara stones or Sankara stones. I saw that. Oh, I saw something else that I was like, at first I got excited because I'm like, oh, and then I realized it was for the bigger figures, which I don't.
Okay, maybe that's what I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen a couple of things, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, I can't go to.
I know.
Like I don't have room for what I have. Like I don't need more.
I know. I bought a few of the larger 6-inch Black Series Star Wars figures, and then I got rid of them. I'm like, no, I can't go down this road. Like I gotta stick with my little guys. If I get anything else, it's gonna be too much.
It's just there's too much out there.
There really
collectors.
is.
Anyway, all right. Should we move on to our next topic?
Yeah, let's move on. So next is Marvel, and we got Secret Invasion.
Yes.
So for this, we got 3 episodes out. Right, 4th coming this week. We're up to date on this one. What do you think about this one so far? How you liking it?
I like it. I like that it's sort of like the spy sort of thriller kind of thing.
Yeah.
A little like maybe the first episode is a little slow. But so far what I've seen, I really like. I really liked the last episode.
Yes. That really kicked things.
I thought that was really good. And what is this character? The guy who's on the screen right now. What's his name?
Telios.
Yeah, but who's the actor?
Oh, I just blanked on his name. He played Krennic in Rogue One also. Ben Kingsley? No. That's somebody else.
Ben Mendelsohn.
That's it. I got Ben right.
Yeah. Okay. I think he's been really good. Like I really like when he's I really like the scenes between him and Fury.
Yes.
Yeah. I think they've been really good. The villain is I think has been pretty good. There was something I saw I really liked. And now, the scene, Rhodey and Fury. The scene between
Right.
Rhodey and Fury was outstanding.
Right.
I
That
thought.
was
I
yes.
just thought that was fantastic. And and we're sitting there, we're all like, so is he a scroll or is he not? Is he not a
Right.
scroll or is he just being Rhodey?
Yeah, right. It was really hard to tell.
And I still don't know, but I really, so far I really like it. I
I've
mean,
been enjoying it. Like yeah, like I said, it was a little slow at start, but as it's been working its way up, like it's especially the scene with Rhodey and stuff, you beginning to realize you're like, oh, is he a scroll? And then like
yeah,
then there's other people like in the restaurant scene they just show in this trailer when Talios goes for the bad guy whose name I can't remember, and then
yeah,
everybody else stands up and they're all scrolls, and then like so they're kind of
Gravik,
slowly Gravik. Gravik with a G, right?
Gravik, yeah,
Okay, yeah. So, but they're slowly like building that paranoia up where it's like, anybody could be a scroll, and
yeah.
I'm beginning to think that Rhodey may have been or may be a
Uh,
scroll because he calls Fury Nick during that encounter,
yeah, that's
and
true.
later on, someone says, he says like nobody calls me Nick, or he doesn't say it about Rhodey, but he says it somewhere else, and then I'm like,
Yeah,
well, wait a minute, if we go back, I believe,
yeah. In the last episode, he said that
yeah,
about, yeah. I like what I've seen so far. I mean, I think the Amelia Clark's been pretty good.
she's been good. So spoilers for up to date, but like, so it looks like she got killed off in this last episode,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm guessing she's not dead only because it's Amelia Clark. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, so,
I
but
suspect the same thing. Yeah,
yeah, but when they first did it, I'm like, what? I'm like, well,
I
that
know.
seems
I was like, is she done? And then the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, I don't think so.
right. But then they killed Maria Hill at the very beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
that surprised
yeah,
me.
yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, I've really enjoyed it. I mean, like and I'm a sucker for this spy stuff
yeah.
anyway, and I think this is sort of leaning into kind of like uh Captain America, the
Oh,
Winter Soldier.
yeah,
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 yeah, the Winter Soldier, and like it's sort of that vibe. I feel like, and
yeah,
that's among my favorite Marvel movies. That
yeah,
the Winter
yeah.
Soldier. Um, so yeah, I think this is leaning into that, and I'm here for it. Now that said, I'll candidly, I've never read the Secret Invasion comic books. I don't know anything about what happens. I don't know how this tracks with that. My guess is it doesn't track well.
From what I
Um,
remember, I think I may have read it at one point, but it was much more of an Avenger story,
okay,
and all that. So this is much more Nick Fury. So I think it's right, loosely based
okay,
on that story. Because I mean, even remember when Captain Marvel came out and the Skrulls were at the time good guys. I remember that throwing me for a loop because the Skrulls, as far as I remember, have always been bad guys. So,
yeah,
so yeah, so I think it's just it's loosely based on it. So, but I like it. Somebody said online, was it Rhodey that wanted to call in the Avengers, and Fury said no, they can't do that because then
yes, or
yeah, and so
something like I think it was him. I think it
yeah,
was, but I like that they put that explanation in there.
yes,
Um, like why don't you just call the Avengers, right? And like he's like, well, so I thought that was a good explanation as to why you can't, it
just call
can't be
yeah.
it can't be that, well, this is a Disney Plus show. I can't do that.
Right,
Right? Like,
yeah. It's like that scene from
we know the
Deadpool.
budget.
Yeah, it's like yeah, Deadpool. He's like awful big house with only two X-Men. Yeah,
Right, exactly.
that was good. But oh, I blanked on what I was gonna say. Oh, I thought the Skrulls' powers. I don't want to say they're inconsistent, but like I don't think I fully understood or understand how they work. because like I didn't realize, I thought the scrolls could just turn into anybody, but the way this is going, it sounds like they actually have to be in contact with the person to be able to change into them at one point.
Okay. Okay.
Like, and then they have like some of the world leaders, they have them with the brain things going on in the
Right.
basement area. So I'm like, oh, I guess that's how they're doing it. They can absorb their memories, maybe, or so there
Yeah, and it's
seems to
almost
be.
like they have to keep them alive.
Maybe, yeah, I'm not sure.
It looks like. I mean,
Yeah,
I think that's what I'm saying, but I don't
right.
know.
Rather than kill them and replace them, they have to keep them alive for some reason, and I don't, and obviously, yeah. So I found that again interesting, just because I'm like, oh, I just assumed they were like, like a traditional shapeshifter where it's like, boop, I can be whatever I want. Whereas, so
Right.
they're setting up the rules is just in a little bit different way, where you're as we're moving along, we're finding these out. So I'm like, oh, okay, it's just a little, I guess, jarring because I went into it thinking I knew how they worked, and then they didn't work that way.
Okay.
So, and it sounds like they're working towards the Super Scroll, which is a Fantastic Four villain, which is
Oh, really?
so like they're building up towards giving scrolls even more superpowers, and the Super Scroll is a Fantastic Four villain, and he's like a classic 60s. So it's like, I think like his one arm is the Things. I think his other arm can turn invisible, or maybe it's on fire. So it's like he's the Thing, Invisible Woman, or Johnny Storm, and Mr. Fantastic. He has all their powers.
Oh, interesting.
I believe so. I'm trying to, if I remember
Okay.
that right. So like at first I'm like, I go, oh, he's trying to give the scroll superpowers. I'm like, that's interesting. And then I'm like, oh, I wonder if it's that super scroll. And I don't even know if I've read anything with him in it, but I'm like, oh, I think that might be that super scroll character. And then he actually said something this last episode about creating a super scroll. And I was like, oh, okay, there you go. And they just did it, came out and said it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I just watched that today, so I must have
Okay.
missed that. I didn't catch that, but
yeah, so I don't know
yeah.
if it's I don't know if it's a little bit of a backdoor thing for Fantastic Four, or if it's just an Easter egg, just something fun.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm curious to see where it goes. And
there's 6 of these?
you know what? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know why I thought there were
Because
6.
if there's 6, then we're like halfway through, and there's a lot to go over yet.
Yeah, there's probably more. Let me, I'm gonna look it up right now.
But yeah, I now I'm kind of like, I want to see more Rhodey,
Yeah.
because I thought he was great.
Let me see here.
And now and then that little scene made me like, because I was always like, I was always sort of indifferent about. I mean, I like Rhodey, but I was always sort of indifferent towards him. But
Yes.
but after that little scene, I was like, man, I want to see more. Like, now I'm kind of looking forward to that Armor Wars.
Yeah, right.
Show.
So I just looked it up. So it says 6 episodes.
Okay.
So
we're halfway
right.
through.
So we're halfway. Yeah. So
and this is releasing on Wednesdays?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but back to what you were saying about a Rhodey and Secret Wars, and that's the one that they took from a TV show and bumped it up to movie status.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So, and I think Secret Wars, Secret Invasion, Secret Invasion, Armor Wars. Oh, and then the Riri Williams show, Ironheart. I think that was supposed to sort of tie in with that. So
yes,
I think I feel like there might be a 4th one, but I feel like these 3 things are, leading into up to, I guess if they changed Armor Wars, I guess if they changed that into a movie, that must be the culmination of these TV shows.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
So yeah, maybe that's a new model they're going to try to go for. Like if because I know, like they said, they're scaling back on the streaming, so maybe they're like, oh, we'll mess around with the TV shows a little bit and build it up, and then give you a big movie or something. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I
like that idea.
Yeah, right. It could be fun. See how it works out.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a little bit more connective tissue that way.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So all right. So halfway through, we'll have to see how it plays out, and hopefully it gets. I mean, I've been enjoying it. Hopefully, it picks up a little bit as it goes on, and yeah, I think like I said, they made it seem like they killed Amelia Clark's character, so I'm pretty sure going forward, it's got to pick up steam if there's only 3 more left.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
all right, very good.
all right, ready to move on?
Yeah, we just got Star Trek here.
Yeah,
Talk about.
and yeah, I don't have. Now this is the one I'm not caught up. Oh, there was another trailer that I missed.
Oh, yeah.
Here we
So we have. Okay, there we go. Yes, we have
Yeah,
Star Trek.
Yeah, and I didn't do the trailers for this one because they always take it down. They always copyright strike us. So
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, CBS, if you're listening, Paramount Plus, get your
Yeah,
act
we're not
together.
trying to steal. We're basically doing advertising for you.
We might not give the best reviews, but we're certainly not trying to steal your.
Yeah.
So you said you're 2 episodes into this one.
Yeah, I'm 2 episodes in. What I've seen, so now I liked episode 2 more than I liked episode 1. Episode 1 I was not happy with.
Yeah.
Like I absolutely hate that they stole the Enterprise. That really bothers me.
I mean, it's like, come up with something new, guys. I mean, I feel like,
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, like I'm watching it and it was like, it's a joke because I'm like, how many times are they going to steal the Enterprise? Like in the course of their career. I mean, how many, even Kirk, how many times did he steal it? You know what I mean? Like,
Right. I really had a problem with that because it's like I said, like I don't, all this prequel stuff, I think the prequels should they should make the original content better.
right.
Right? Like that's what they should do. And I don't think they should take away from the original content, and I think that does.
Yeah.
Like, because it's almost like, well, Kirk came up with it for Search for Spock because Spock stole the Enterprise when he was still, and that I've got a real problem with.
Yes, I agree with that.
I don't like that at all. And now that said, I guess the reality is these shows aren't for us. Not for guys our age. Like, so maybe they're for younger people who haven't seen any of those movies and they don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. But I don't know I don't know about that. And the reason I say that is because the next episode, which I won't spoil for you, but it's episode 3, the security officer, the Noonien Singh, what's her name? Whatever her name is.
Something Noonien Singh, that's all I know.
Yeah, she gets thrown back in time with Kirk from this show. And so again, no spoilers for that. Spoiler that's the premise, but like so I'm like, my question during that whole episode, I'm like, why is Kirk here? And then I'm like, well, I'm like, I don't know if I like this guy's Kirk. And so like, I'm like, why would you include Kirk if it wasn't for us? Right.
That's true. That's true.
So, but you're right, because I'm not sure about that. Cause I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, oh, they're trying to, appeal to the younger people. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, then why are you throwing this random Kirk in here for?
Right. Like, just, yeah. I don't like that really, but there was one other little thing that bothered me, not nearly as much as the stealing the Enterprise thing. I didn't like that at the very beginning of the episode, Spock was having some kind of like issues, and the doctor came out with that like mandolin thing,
right,
for him, and it was like the doctor's idea to give it to Spock. But in the original series, Spock just had one of those things. It was like a thing that he had, and I don't love that the origin of it is this doctor. Like that and it's not a big deal. It's not like it ruined the show for me. But I was kind of like, you didn't need to do that.
Well, it's one of those things where like not everything needs a secret origin.
Exactly.
What I mean? Like
that's like maybe what I'm saying.
Spock is like the play of the mandolin versus
right.
Yeah.
So so I didn't like, and it bothered me that it was like right out of the gate, episode 1, they pulled that crap.
Yeah,
and that I had a problem with. So, but like that said, episode 2, I thought was significant. Like it was a little slow, but like I liked where it ended up.
Yes.
It was like the legal drama one,
which
I thought was pretty good, because like that's a Star Trek thing, right? Like there's always been those like legal episodes, even in the original series,
Right.
So I thought that was I thought that was like a throwback to that, and I was cool. I was okay with that. That said, I thought that the beginning of that show dragged a little bit,
Right.
but
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
once they sort of got their footing, I thought it went pretty well.
Yeah.
But I knew that in episode 3 they do some time travel, so I'm looking forward to seeing that, but I just couldn't get it
Yeah.
in.
No, that's fine.
You
Yeah.
know?
I would say I am current on it. I don't want to say it's this season. It something's missing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like last season with maybe 1 or 2 episodes. I feel like last season maybe it was just such a pleasant surprise, but I really liked a lot of last season, and it was and whereas this season, I mean, it's perfectly fine, perfectly adequate, but I find myself like scrolling on my phone a lot during the episodes,
Yeah.
and and that could be a me problem, but like I don't know, that's just like it's not holding my attention like I'd hoped, and
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Like I like it's like I watched that episode today. I did think it dragged a little bit. I thought like the end. I thought it ended well,
yeah,
right? But like it took a long time to get there. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so it was a little slow, I thought.
yeah. I mean, the other two, the time travel one is interesting, but it has a few little hiccups to it, and then the one from
is Pike in that one at all? Or is he not in it very much?
I don't think he's in it very much at all.
Because in the first episode he wasn't. He was barely in it.
Right.
The second episode he was in more, but
not
it's
a
not
lot.
like
Right.
not the whole time.
I was thinking, yeah. Now,
so I'm wondering if is it that Anson Mount isn't in the show?
Maybe maybe there were scheduling conflicts or something. Now the newest one that I watched yesterday, he's in that one. He's a main character in that one.
Okay, all right.
But because that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, the show doesn't feel right, and I'm like, oh, well, the Captain Pike's not in a lot of these episodes. I'm like, and I like you said, like I liked episode 2 that he happened to be in. I'm like, maybe it's because I like Pike and he hasn't been around. But then the one from yesterday, the number 4, I was like, I didn't really. Care
it wasn't good either. Okay.
It was like I said, it was just serviceable. I was like on my phone, and I'm like, oh, okay, here's going, But that could, like I said, that could be if you once you check them out, it might give me a check that maybe I, put my phone down. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes, certain shows you just get sucked in, and an hour goes by and it's like you don't even notice. And then like, some shows you're like, oh, okay, and you start scrolling on your phone, and like so.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping. I liked that this was episodic, but I'm hoping that maybe there's something a little bit more to it, or I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm.
Yeah.
It's a fine line between like, being episodic and being like I like a bigger picture, but I don't know what they're gonna do with it.
Yeah, it's yeah, I haven't been nearly as enamored with it so far this season as I was last season. So. But I mean, I hope it picks up because I really like Anson Mount as Captain Pike.
Yes,
and I want to see more.
And I want to support this show, like, because this is like traditional Trek, and I want to support that because like I lost interest in Discovery, and we're waiting to hear if there's going to be a sequel to Picard, the Picard show. They did announce what the Academy show or something like that. Didn't they announce that Star Trek Academy show?
Yeah. But I don't know when it's coming.
Me neither. And then speaking of pulling shows, that Prodigy show, they pulled that.
Oh, did they?
They pulled that off of the service, and now that's gone. And people are like, hey, I mean, I know it was a kids show, but still, people were, it was just like I was like, oh my, the things they're just pulling things left and right.
I as much as it's like when I buy, I'm telling you, when I buy video games. And I know that it's great. It's super convenient to just download them. Yeah. I get the physical media, man, because it's like I don't know when you never know when that thing is just going to disappear. I don't like it.
I've been the opposite way because I don't like although I have a bunch of Star Wars clutter, I don't
Yeah.
like, like, oh, I was like, I'm a big fan of, like, oh, I'll download it, I'll do this, I'll do that. And streaming, I'm like, oh, great, I can get rid of my DVDs and all my movies will be available anytime. And then now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, like, I
Yeah.
don't know if I like this now. I don't, especially if it's something, you know, sooner or later they're going to take something away that I'm gonna really care about, and then
Right,
I'm kind of
right,
like,
right. It's only a matter, right. It's like a matter of time.
but the
And
sad
then,
thing, the sad thing is though, is like with discuss or with Prodigy and with, we mentioned earlier, Willow. I don't think they even put them out on DVD, so that's half the problem. So then it's like,
right. So they're just gone.
you got to hope somebody recorded it and uploaded it to,
Right, right, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
It's a very bizarre. I don't like it.
yeah, I
I don't
know.
like it.
I know. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of these streaming companies all merging together. As a matter of fact, Paramount Plus and Showtime are now the same app. I think you have to pay to get the access to the Showtime content, but
Oh,
they've merged together. And then HBO
well,
Max turned into Max, which is merged with
yeah.
this Discovery.
Well, they changed like it was there was a way like for a while on Wall Street, like all you had to do, it was all about subscribers,
Right.
right? And Wall Street was like, all right, well, if you as long as you're gaining subscribers, then you're gaining, um, your revenue should go up or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But like, what they found is that, and this is the problem Disney's running into, is yeah, Disney's getting subscribers, but in order to keep those subscribers, they got to keep churning out original content, and that
Right.
original content costs a lot of money, and 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 so it's almost like the money you spend generating content to keep the subscribers is maybe not worth it because
Right.
you're not getting enough subscribers to offset it, and that's
Yeah.
why that's a lot of why Bob Iger came back to Disney is because they
Right.
were like
Okay.
the way Chapek was doing things. It just they were like this doesn't work.
Okay.
Um, so that's why like Iger came back and he's pulling back like okay they're canceling some stuff. There's shows that aren't going to go into that they announced that they're not going to do now and or the stuff is getting pushed back and that's a lot of the reason why because I mean what they're finding and I think all of them are finding this they've saturated the market with all these streaming services
Right.
and now you know consumers have to make a choice right
Right.
because you can't subscribe to all of them you're going to be spending hundreds of dollars every
Yeah,
month
it's
right
back to the cable model,
exactly
where yeah.
but at least with cable you subscribed and you got it all regardless I mean
Right.
it kept going up every year and that made everybody angry but
Yeah.
like you got everything
Yeah.
and now it's like well what's more important to me like is this more important to me well I can live without that and that's what's happening so
Yeah.
and they're going to have to eventually it's all going to go back to cable right like it's
Right.
just not going to be cable but it's going to be
It'll
some
be, yeah.
company's going to come around and they're going to be like we're going to put all this under one umbrella and you're going to pay one price and that's
I
what it's
feel
going to
like
be
it's it's like we have Amazon, we have a Fire Stick on our TV out
yeah
here. And on there I can access all my various apps, but it's like technically I've subscribed to them on my phone or my iPad or whatever, but I can really subscribe to them through the Fire Stick, which would be through Amazon. And I feel like that was just going to be the way things are going to go.
yeah
It'll be like Amazon or Google or one of those companies, and you're just going to boop that.
right and you're going to pay one price
Mhm.
for all of it
Yeah.
and it's all going to be under
yeah.
one
And even like Disney, they have Disney Plus, they have Hulu, and then they have ESPN. And it's like, I don't know, I get that for free because I subscribe to Verizon Wireless. They give me all that for free. So
yeah
it's kind of like, which is great. But I mean, now I notice that they're starting to move a bunch of stuff from Hulu over to Disney. And like, I assume they're going to all merge together at some point as
yeah
well,
yeah
So yeah,
yeah it's
yeah.
crazy
Yeah, I know. Meanwhile, yeah, Netflix, and then Netflix, because that's all they do. They're just over there. They're like, all right, we'll sit here and wait for you. Sooner or later, you're going to want to sell it. You're going to want to sell us your content, but lease us your content again. And
Yeah, we'll wait you out.
Yeah, right.
we'll put out a Stranger Things every couple of years.
Yeah, right.
We'll wait you out. Anyway,
well, all right. So I guess that's about it, right?
Yeah, I don't have anything else. I don't know when we're going to record again because I'm going away at the end of July.
Oh, that's right.
So.
Yeah.
And
so yeah.
What's I don't even know what's next. What's coming up?
Well, we have at the end of August is Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And
is there another Marvel movie coming out at some point?
I think the next one is the Marvels, and I think that is not until November.
Okay.
And I feel like after Secret Invasion on the TV, I feel like
Loki was supposed to come out, but I heard it got pushed back.
Oh.
Loki was supposed to be in the fall.
Yes.
I don't know if it's going to happen now.
Right, and I don't know if that's because they're saving it or if that's because of Kang having legal problems.
Is that Jonathan Major? Is that his name?
Yes, I believe that's right. It's interesting. I mean, right or wrong, for him, one of the things I was reading about the Flash about why it was so bad, or not why it did so poorly, is apparently, with Ezra Miller and all his trouble, the younger generation makes us sound not nice, but the younger generation really cares about all those allegations and stuff like that. And a lot of them chose just, and I'm making a blanket statement, but a lot of them just chose like, oh, not going to see that because of him.
Yeah.
And I found that interesting.
I said something, we were with some people on the 4th of July, and I said something about, I kind of want to see the Flash. And I got a whole thing about, and look, I know he's a terrible person. Like I've got no, like I know that, and he's
right.
He's like guy should go to jail if absolutely, but like,
but
I still want to see the movie, right? Right. So like, and does that make I guess that makes me a terrible person? I don't know, but like that's kind of where I'm at. Like I do sort of want to see the movie. Yeah, I know he's a terrible person, but I do want to see the movie.
Well,
but that's kind of where I'm at.
We are able to separate that stuff. Maybe it's because it's us or because culturally or what I mean, whatever. But the younger people, they don't separate that stuff anymore.
Right.
And so I understand why they might be pushing Loki back, because they might be really like I said, panicking now. They might be like here's their big bad, and suddenly they got to change all these start changing gears and. I don't envy them.
And I it's not that I don't care. I do, but it's just sort of like Michael Keaton's in it.
I know, right?
I really want to see that.
I really wanted to see it.
Terrible.
I
know. Don't send me hate mail. Don't send me. I'm a good person generally.
Right.
It's the Flash. Come on.
Right.
Anyway.
So, all right. Very good then.
All right.
I guess we'll wrap it up, right? Yep.
Yeah. All right. So thanks for listening, everybody. You can follow us on social media. We're on Trends.
I saw that.
On Trends.
I saw you signed up for that.
Woo. We're there, baby.
Is it Trends or Threads?
Threads.
Threads.
I don't know.
I'm on the threads. I'm on the thread.
Yeah, so we have a new one that we can post, that we don't have to do, that we can do nothing with. All right, but you follow us on social media. We're on Facebook. You can follow us we're on Twitter. We're at Geek Hangout Pod, and I don't know what we are on Threads or whatever.
I don't either.
Just Geek Hangout. It was whatever we were on Instagram, right?
Yes, and I can't remember. Stand by here.
Come on, Grant.
I'm the one that posted stuff over there. I can't even.
Yeah, because I still don't understand Instagram. Instagram's
on Instagram we are Geek Hangout Podcast.
Okay,
so that has gone over to Threads, and so
so you can follow us there too. Check us out there.
Right. Very good.
Everybody. So with that, and also we're recording so we can check us out on YouTube. So
yes, YouTube is, which has proven very popular.
Yeah, I like the YouTube.
Right? Yeah.
Thumbs up. all right, everybody. Thanks for joining. We will talk to you next time. Probably not until sometime in August is my guess, but we'll see.
All right.
All right.
We'll see what we can do.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for listening.